for the invitation to speak to you all today. I'm going to start with something you may have seen on Twitter. You saw that King's College Hospital have now introduced wheelchair. Basically, when you go into accident and emergency at King's in London, if you're struggling to walk and you need a wheelchair, you better have your credit card with you. Because after 4 hours of using a wheelchair, King's are now charging £2 an hour to use a wheelchair. The average wait in A&E at King's is 12 hours. For disabled people who haven't got 50p, let alone £2, it means going without a wheelchair at A&E if they can't afford to pay for one. You know, here we are with a Labour government. What's the difference? It's two sides of the same coin, isn't it? You know, disabled people across the UK are anxious and terrified what the budget holds for them. Rachel Thieves, as the People Assembly have taken to calling her, are looking at the proposed work capability assessment reforms from the previous government. It would mean that if they go ahead with them, by 2028-29, over 424,000 disabled people stand to lose £416 a month. And official figures from actually the DWP themselves have actually shown that just 3% of disabled people impacted are actually forecast to move into work. Let that figure sink in, 3%. So they will condemn millions of disabled people into deep poverty, homelessness. And I hate to say it, and we've seen 15 years of it, death, because that's what's coming. What we need from you is for you to contact your MP now and tell the government no ifs, no buts, no disability cuts. We simply cannot take any more. We do not know what Labour has in store for disabled people in receipt of personal independence payments, as Labour are maintaining a wall of silence, which has absolutely ramped up the dreadful distress, anxiety and fear of not knowing what the future holds. PIP is a virtual lifeline for millions of disabled people, which is there to support disabled people with the additional costs of disability. Many disabled workers will not be able to continue working if they cut PIP, bring in a voucher scheme, which the previous Tory government were thinking of doing, and Labour haven't rejected, or if they do what they did with winter fuel allowance, they means test it. So here's our message to Labour: PIP off Labour, hands off PIP. What happened by means testing winter fuel allowance is an absolute travesty, and this wasn't by accident, because if you look at video footage from 2014 when Rachel Reeves was the Shadow Secretary of State for the DWP, she said back then, over 10 years ago, that that was the first thing that the Labour government would do, was means test winter fuel allowance. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. By DWP own analysis, over 71% of older people impacted had a disability. By taking this away, how many will die of the cold this winter? And the government now do not keep winter fuel death figures. So the true number will never be known. You've also seen that Labour are pushing ahead with the fraud and debt bill, snooping on claimant bank accounts. Benefit fraud is minute. It's like 2.9% for universal credit in ESA. It's 0% for personal independence payments. Tax avoidance is over 90%. So our message is tax the rich. Go after the non-doms, the offshore bank accounts and the multi-millionaires and make them pay their share. What I'm about to tell you next is an emotive subject for us, and it's going to be shocking for you. Next week, Kim Ledbetter, who's a doctor, who's also an MP, will lay her private member's bill on assisted dying. We have since found out that 38 MPs, including 13 ministers, want this widened out to disabled people not terminal, but to unavoidable suffering. So disabled people with MS, Huntington's, motor neurons, people like me with rheumatoid arthritis. So instead of being offering healthcare or any form of treatment like they do in Canada, where they have medically assisted death and they're ramping up coercion, they say, why don't I think about having assisted death instead? This is where Labour are going. And you have seen Starmer actually say to Esther Ranson, he's promising her that this bill is going to be made into law. We need you to do two things. We need you to write to the MPs and of the issues about why we need a publicly funded NHS, free at the point of need, paid for by progressive taxation, a publicly funded social care system, publicly funded by progressive taxation. We need decent palliative care, hospice centres. We need assistance to live. Sort out our assistance to live first, not to die. We are not disposable. We are human beings and we deserve the right to live. I'm sure some of you have seen Liz Carr's documentary Better Off Dead, which I actually took part in. And she went to Canada and met a doctor who is in charge of the euthanasia program out there. They even have a colouring book for children on the process of euthanasia. You need to watch that documentary about what's happening in Canada, because there's lobbyists here, Dignity in Dying, Humanist UK, who want to bring that process in Canada here to the UK. And I'm going to guarantee you this, that as DPAC have done for 15 years, we have been at the forefront of resistance against the previous government. We will be at the forefront of resistance against this government. We need you to join us. We need a unified, coordinated fight back. Join in and let me know now. I think we need a chant, don't you, to lift the mood a little bit. So join in with me, after me, no ifs, no buts, no disability cuts. So let me hear you at the front. No ifs,
no buts, no disability cuts.
You got it. Thank you very much. Cheers.